Question 76 says determine if the triangles at right are congruent. If they are, justify your answer by using one of the triangle congruence conditions and state a sequence of rigid transformations that would map one triangle onto the other. Okay, so if I'm looking at this, we clearly have a side that's shared down the middle and dB is congruent to itself because of the reflexive property. So what I end up having here is uh, I have side angle side, side angle side. So I could say, let's see, these are congruent. Well, I should say which triangles, right? I'll say which triangle. So let's go ABD. So I'll say triangle ABD, ABA, is it ABA? No, ABD is congruent to triangle. Now this is one of those moments where it'd be great to just pause me and think about this. Like what should I say? So now if you didn't pause it, that's fine. I'm just going to say it. But triangle ABD would have to go with triangle CDB. Triangle CDB. And if you look closely, you can see that I matched up congruent sides. So for example, AB is the part that has the two tick marks. Well, that's the same as CD, isn't it, in the other triangle? If you look at BD, that's the first and last. That's I marked that with 1, 2, 3 tick marks. You can see 1, 2, 3 tick marks. So the congruent parts are all lined up there with that. And the congruence condition that we're using to justify this is that these two triangles were congruent by side angle side. So I'll say these triangles are congruent by side angle side congruence condition. Now, part of me is awfully tempted to say, oh yeah, you just reflect it down and it's done. But I can tell reflecting that would not be enough, right? Because if I was to reflect it down, angle B would be in the wrong spot, right? They wouldn't line up right. So I think what I would say is I would take these triangles. So I'm going to sketch the bottom triangle as it originally appears, right? And this was point B, and this was D, and this was C. And I'm going to say I'm going to take the original triangle ABD, and I'm going to I'm going to I'm going to translate it to the left, parallel to DB, until B matches up with D. So when I'm done, I want this point right here. I want this point it was D, but when I move it over like this would be B prime, right? And then this is now the new D prime, and this is A prime. So I'm just basically taking this shape and I'm sliding it to the left. I'm translating it to the left along that segment BD until B reaches D. So when I do that now, these angles are here, right? I've got these were my green segments that were congruent because of the reflexive property, and these were the ones that were congruent here. So now what I'm going to do is I would just say let's take this top triangle and I'm just going to rotate it around this point, and I'll make it red. So this point red, right, which is the point shared by D and B prime, I'm going to rotate triangle A prime, B prime, D prime around that point. Right, I'm going to round it. I guess I go clockwise or counterclockwise, but I'm just going to say I'm going to rotate it clockwise until A prime meets C. So I'm actually going to try and write these down, that what I just said down, but I'm going to write it down off camera so you don't have to watch me write. Okay, so these are the two things that I said. I'm going to translate triangle ABD along line DB until so that How about just until B prime lands on D? Okay, that's where I'm going to stop with that one. Until B prime lands on D. And then once I've done that, then I'm going to take this triangle A prime, B prime, D prime, the one that I just moved over, and I'm going to rotate that around point D that I marked in red until AB lines up with DC. So what I'm talking about is this segment right here, A prime, B prime, is going to keep going around until it lands with this point right here. And once that happens, all of my points are going to line up. The angles will be perfectly lined up on top of each other. The segments with 2 tick marks would be lined up, and the segments with 3 tick marks would be lined up. So those are my two rigid transformations that I would use. I'd use a translation, and I would use a rotation.